Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything finally revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
Celebrate, my name's James. Well, not celebrate that my name's James, but celebrate that, yeah, you can say that at the start of the podcast. Congratulations, Serge.
We don't have to waste 10 minutes at the start of the show talking about coronavirus and whether football's coming back or not or what. Let's literally park any conversation around whether it's right or wrong or what's happening. It is happening. Everybody knows it. It's been all over the internet. Football restarts 17th of June, which is now 16 days away.
It's soon come round, mate, yeah.
16 days away. And all of the speculation about when football will start is now transitioning to what's going to happen with FPL before the start. How do you feel about football restarting and everything going on?
Well, I'm pleased now that I know that it's going to happen. I think I've had very mixed emotions for the last couple of months. I think part of me, because of my influence on my team, I didn't really give a shit if it restarted or not from a personal club perspective. But, you know, I've been adamant throughout that we must finish this football season no matter what the circumstances. So pleased about that. And then even from a Spurs perspective, you start thinking, oh, if we beat Man United in that first game back, I don't know, can we put a challenge on? And I know they'll let me down within 90 minutes. But yeah, we've all got something to look forward to. I'm pleased that for the questioning of what do you think, which is fine because everybody wants to know, right? We can put it to bed now. We think. I mean, are we locked in? Is this definitely happening? Because everyone's just assumed, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nothing's 100% certain, but the numbers in terms of deaths and the virus rate and stuff hasn't been crazily increasing or anything. It's going in the right direction. There haven't been any positive tests in the last few days, so I think we're going in the right direction, and I think football will definitely be restarting with that first two fixtures, 17th, 18th.
I think the only thing that will stop this now is the government.
Potentially,
as in, if we get second spike and government are in a position we have to go, no, I'm really sorry, you've got to stop. That's the only thing I think that's going to stop.
I mean, that will be a risk all the way up to the week the football restarts. Literally the day before, they could be like, hang on a second, this isn't happening. But the fact that there's no fans in the stadium and stuff, I think it's a low probability for me right now, like less than 10% chance of that happening. So we crack on. I mean, it's interesting just reading down the Twitter questions, James, the general mood and vibe of people, but we'll get onto that. For regular listeners, you'll know that we normally do the Twitter questions at the end. We have decided today to just get straight into the Twitter questions, mainly because the Twitter questions cover a lot of the talking points. We'll end up talking for 20 minutes about FPL and then get to the questions and say, oh, well, we've answered all of these. So they do cover a lot of the talking points, and we'll come on to them in a second. I've been looking. I logged into my account, James, yesterday for the first time in absolutely ages.
When you say your account, you mean your fantasy Premier League team?
Yep, my FPL team.
I would have I could probably guess them, but I don't know the team.
I've got 3 Liverpool: Robertson, Trent, and Salah. I remember having that. I've got triple Wolves. I forgot about my triple Wolves: Jimenez, Doctor, and Doherty, that is. And
all that planning for blank Traore. 31 that is no longer a blank.
Yeah. Danny Ings and Jamie Vardy still lingering up front. Then I've got Doucouré lingering around there. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne still in my team. And then Alex McCarthy in goal.
I think for anybody...
I have one double game week player for the first...
For anybody with free hit or second wild card left, it really doesn't particularly matter, I don't think, who's in that team at the moment, because you're probably, if you don't like it and you still got that second wild card, you're going to probably come off it within the first 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say. On that note, one of the things, for those who listened to my stream on Friday, one of the things I suggested that I thought would happen was that we would get unlimited transfers when we return. There is no suggestion of that at the moment. I guess if there's still a possibility that could happen, but it probably is beginning to look like that won't be the case. In which case,
I don't think it will happen, James. I'll be honest with you. I feel like that's such a big fun, because when they released, they made a statement on Saturday, wasn't it, about the first two fixtures and when the fixtures were going to be announced. I feel like it's such a big thing to roll out that they would have to make that decision early. Like, if we don't find out by Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're recording on a Monday, then I don't think that's going to happen.
I disagree with that. You can't do anything with your team at the moment. You can't make any transfers or anything.
Is it locked? Is it?
So if they make an announcement when they reopen it,
then potentially.
If that's in 7 days or whatever, then you can do it. I mean, just to say to everyone, you got unlimited transfers, everyone's going to know, right? I don't even think they need to hype that too much on social media. The chances of second wild cards, as some people have been calling for those who've already used their second wild card, that I can't see. I think the idea of unlimited transfers would, forget me and you, and the listeners, we're not the target audience, right? It's the target audience is everyone around the world globally to re-engage them in the game. And I think saying, look, you can smash into whatever you want when you come back, would probably be beneficial. But that's obviously up to them in terms of how they want to play it. If it's just how it is, those that still have got chips are certainly at an advantage, in my opinion, because we are going to walk straight back into a double game week, right?
Yeah, we will. For me, I had a look at it, and I worked off the assumption that there wouldn't be unlimited transfers, which then said I've got two options here. To utilize the double game week to its maximum potential. I either wildcard now and then play my bench boost, which means I could get 30 fixtures out of it, or free hit in that week, which means I could get potentially 22 fixtures out of it. And looking at my team and also the double game week fixtures, I don't think I'm going to be using the wildcard and bench boost. I think I'm 90% likely to free hit and only 10% likely to wildcard and bench boost, because the other side of that game week, I'm not going to want a team made up of Villa, Sheffield United, Arsenal and City.
Correct.
So free hitting is the way forward, and then I will start to slowly manoeuvre my way around. There are a number of players that I've got my eyes on. So I'm thinking that first week is going to be free hit. And then the second question, which we don't know the answer to, which really doesn't help our planning, is what is the fixture schedule? And based on what happens with that, will then dictate when I use my wild cards to set myself up for a decent bench boost. And I'd like to see what happens with the cup quarters and semis and stuff as well, because that quarters especially might throw up a few blanks or maybe a second or third double. Maybe.
We think probably not at the moment, depending on how they lay it out. We just think
the likelihood is low.
Rather than having 2 game weeks in a 7-day period, which is what we're going to be looking for generally, I think when you've got the FA Cup games involved, those from the weekend that are postponed for FA Cup look like they will then just take place in the following midweek, in which case you'll have a game week that lasts from Friday to Thursday, for example, rather than that period being over 2 game weeks. It will just be one very long game week, and that looks like that will happen on 2 occasions. In terms of the chips, it's very straightforward for me, and that's really why I'm not bothered in terms of what's in my team. If there's unlimited transfers, great. I'm bench boosting straight away, and then I'm wildcarding straight afterwards. And if there's no unlimited transfers, I'm using my free hit.
No,
it's absolutely so straightforward for me. And then depending on where I land, once I've got the information following everyone having played at least once, I'll then make a decision in terms of if I'm activating that wild card straight away, or it might be I'm quite happy with the fixtures. So, for example, that game week, let's assume we're coming back to game week 39, for example, with the City, Arsenal, Villa, Sheffield United doubles. That following game week of game week 40 was what would have been the blank game week. So for people like me and you who were planning towards that blank, I'm going to drop in on 3 Wolves players at home to Bournemouth, for example. So it might be that I don't wildcard straight away, for example.
A couple of weeks in. Yeah.
Could be. But if I don't like it, then I'll just wildcard straight away as well and go for the running.
Yeah.
If you've got chips, you're almost certainly going to be using them in that first game week back. If you've got nothing, it's going to be very difficult to maneuver, and I wouldn't overplay the Man City Arsenal thing, and that generally, if you haven't got an Aubameyang, for example, it's probably going to hurt, but I wouldn't stress about it if you don't want him in your team generally, because
long term, exactly.
You haven't got the information. I mean, a player like Aubameyang, he's probably very likely to play the majority of the games. But if Arsenal have a bad result against Man City and then a bad result at Brighton in the second part of their first game week back, then they can completely forget Champions League, right? And at which point do they start looking at it and going, well, the priority is going to be the FA Cup here. And you've got to start factoring those sort of things in. And we just don't know. I know there's questions in that are going to be, which players do you think will benefit and not benefit? I can give you my opinion, but it is nothing more than a guess. Nothing more than a guess.
That's the biggest challenge with questions, James. I mentioned where is everybody? Like the Twitter questions quite often give us a real idea of where everybody's head's at in terms of FPL. So I would say that there are three things that have come out of these Twitter questions that are very interesting compared to what has been going on in the last month. Firstly, there is only one. Yep, there is only one Champman FPL question.
All right, save it to the end.
Yeah, so I think people's focus is suddenly, this has really livened up, and suddenly official FPL is becoming a big part of people's mindset. There are at least 4 or 5 questions about Bundesliga players, which makes me think everybody's been watching German football in the last week or week and a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised by that. I think I'm going to be absolutely useless with any of those because I've watched no Bundesliga football at all, which is really interesting. And then the third thing, that the category that everybody's kind of questions fall into, is what you just mentioned, James. Like, who's going to do well and who's not? Who's going to struggle coming back? Who's not? I mean, those are very, very, very difficult questions to answer without any kind of information.
But we'll have a go.
Yeah, of course. I've got a few ideas in my mind, and we will have a go. Let's go straight into the first question, if you're ready to get into the Twitter questions, James.
I am, Sidge. Your reception is dodgy, mate.
Can you can't hear me particularly clearly?
I can, but you every now and again you're cutting out.
Okay. Nothing I can do on the Wi-Fi at the moment. I'll see if I can make it a little bit better. Yeah.
On YouTube, we just lost your video. I can obviously cut from the audio.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Yeah, we go. No problems.
Let's work on it. Right. Question number 1 is Amber's question. Amber Redmond. I hope you're doing all right, Amber.
Hello, Amber.
What's the biggest trap you think people will fall into when picking their teams for the remainder of the season?
Probably picking fodder. I probably would get myself 15 starters. You can probably play around with, if you've got no chips left, you can probably get away with having a solid goalkeeper and a 4.0 goalkeeper. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be changes and whatnot quite a bit, I think, isn't there? So yeah, that's going to be the trap. It's the eyes light up and I can get all these brilliant players in. I can, coming back and going, I can get in De Bruyne and Aguero and Aubameyang and not worry about the rest. And I think you need some balance. You can 3 hitters and that can do that, no problem.
I honestly think that the biggest issue is going to be around over management. And I was looking at my team yesterday, as I was saying, and I picked certain players for reasons, and then you forget why you might have picked them. Like my bench actually looked all right. I had Todd Cantwell, Charlie Taylor, and Diego Rico. And they all start and they all play. Rico's a little bit flaky, but Charlie Taylor was playing consistently towards the end of the football. Todd Cantwell was playing well and picking up points. And he trolled a few people towards the end of the season. My reserve goalkeeper we'll forget about. But I think you pick players for reasons. I had triple Liverpool for a reason. I had triple Wolves for a reason. And what I don't want to do is suddenly overmanage and start trying to get too clever with it. Nothing bad has ever happened when I've just let a week roll and not forced a transfer or 2 transfers. So I think overmanagement can be a potential real issue for people. So if in doubt, do less than do more is always my advice.
Charlie Taylor is a great example of someone who would be good to be in your squad. He's 4.2 or 4.3. He might have gone up to 4.3. I don't know. But
he might have by now, yeah.
With Sean Dyche that if he's happy with the team and they're performing okay, he's not going to change it. And again, look, they, for example, Burnley start with Manchester City away. You're not going to want to start him. He's a great one to sit on the bench at the start if you're not going to be using your bench boost, for example. And then you crack on with him from there. He can sit on the bench every week. If you feel they've got a decent fixture, you can playing. Obviously, home and away doesn't matter so much now, and Burnley can rock up with a clean sheet on any given week, really. So he's the sort of one perfect to be having on your bench. People like him, Jamal Lascelles, similar price. If he stays fit, he's going to play the majority of the games. That's what you want.
Yeah, very good shout.
It's the defensive guys, probably from the bottom half teams, are probably the ones that are most locked here for minutes. Now, you're obviously not going to want to make up your whole team full of this. If you go with 5 defenders from these kind of sides, what are you doing about your likes of Trent, Robbo, Aymeric Laporte is about to come back into the conversation for a lot of people, I think. So it's a balancing act. But I think, biggest mistake would be, I'm going to throw that 3.9 million defender on my bench. Don't do it.
Well, that leads on to 2 questions which are linked, and it's what we're talking about. So we've got Chris, FIF_FPL Addicts, our West Ham correspondent. Do you think the Premier League will do what Germany did and allow more than 3 substitutes per game, or business as usual in the Premier League? And if that is the case, FPL Quinner says, do you think we'll need a full 15-man squad with rotation, or can we have a couple of cheap non-starters? And let's chuck our friend Morpheus Fire Hits question into it. How do you go about selecting out bench players, leave points on the bench, or risk being trolled, or go for absolute fodder? I think you've answered it there. I want 15 reserve goalkeeper. I can let slide. Other than that, I want 15 players that I know are going to play, and I do think that there's going to be a little bit more rotation. Where do you stand on this 5 transfers instead of 3 transfers? Substitutions, sorry, as opposed to transfers. Sorry.
I come back and say, just by remembering, in terms of goalkeepers, I mean, my thinking would be to still get 2 playing goalkeepers for the pure reason that, as it stands at the moment, unless we get the unlimited transfers, I'm going to be bench boosting in a single game week. So I don't want the fodder goalkeeper, right? I need 2 playing goalkeepers, and it's probably a case of me targeting where I think I've got the best fixtures, and I need to do some analysis on that. And I think it'd be everybody individual circumstance in terms of where best that's going to be. Majority of people are not going to be set up well to bench boost for that first game week unless there's an unlimited transfers. Obviously, if you wildcard, which you can't bench boost. To answer, what's the question, Serge? Sorry.
I was asking you about the 5 substitutions per game instead of 3 substitutions per game. Do you think that will happen in the Premier League?
It's very interesting looking at the Championship statement last night, which suggests that they're going to return on Saturday, June the 20th. There's a suggestion on the website from the EFL that negotiations are ongoing about the possibility of 5 permitted substitutes, which, as was previously sort of passed down from UEFA, that people can do it, but you can only do it on 3 occasions. So what that means is if you make 5 substitutions on 2 occasions, you would have to make 2 transfers together. Does that make sense? That's to stop on time wasting and that kind of thing. So in theory,
I see
that makes sense.
Yeah,
so in theory, you could with 2 minutes to go. With 2 minutes to go, you could in theory bring on 3 players together, having already made 2 substitutes. That makes sense. Yeah,
makes sense.
And the other thing that was notable in that statement as well was it looks like they're thinking about increasing the number of substitutes that are available to select from 7 to 9.
Okay.
Which is really interesting as well, because then you add the prospect of more younger players potentially being on the bench in some of these circumstances. And when games are sort of comfortable, etc., perhaps teams don't under pressure in terms of their final league position, you might see some more younger players getting minutes here.
FPL Hindsight at FPL Hindsight says, I know you said unlimited transfers till we restart would be the best option. How likely do you think it is that this is likely going to happen? And what's your opinion on what they are most likely to do? I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that you can't make transfers and the game was locked down because I didn't try and do anything yesterday. So prior to that, I thought this was very unlikely. But the fact that you've now told me that the game is locked down and is not reopened yet makes it more likely. But I would go at best a 50-50. I'm not bothered whether they do it or not as a good solution or not. I just think it does leave everybody on an equal playing ground. And we have had a real shit show of circumstances. I think it would be a decent solution, but I'm not wed to it. If it's not, it's not. As long as it's the same.
Personally, I don't care either way. I'll just get
Yeah.
on with it with however the cards are dealt. The ones I've got some sympathy for are those who activated their wild card before the postponements. And we would always say, in terms of advice, yeah, if you're going to activate your wild card, yeah, do it early. See if you can take advantage of price movements, etc. So those people I have some sympathy for who would have gone down that route. Otherwise, like, look, we're all playing the same game. We're all abiding by the same rules. You might think it's unfair that we're coming back to this, but then use your chips there and people go, oh, I haven't got the second wild cards. That's not fair. You know, he's part of the run of the luck. Like I said, I feel sorry for those who would have done it in the run up to game week 30. You know, I could say, oh, it's unfair that Sadio Mane got injured after 15 minutes of a double game week. No, that's life. It's what happens, right? It's part of the game.
We're playing a guessing game. It's just exactly. Couldn't agree with you more.
Next.
We've got a two-parter here, two different people on the same thread asking a question. FPL Rookie 48. Once Liverpool have the League One, what to do with their players? Sell, keep? Do you think they'll be heavily rotated, rested, minutes managed and held back until next season? Or conversely, do you think Klopp will play his first team most often than not, given that Liverpool may not have a pre-season for next season and respect the integrity of the current campaign? Could breaking the 100-point barrier be a motivation as well?
Can't really answer that question, but I certainly think the points total is going to be a motivation, certainly. What do they need? 18 points or something, I think?
Yeah.
From
6 wins.
From 9. So there's got to be some sort of motivation going on for a little while. They're going to win the title early. That's the motivation to keep going. So you would think with no FA Cup as well, no Europe, although that would be after the domestic season, that there's no real reason for them to chop and change. I'm sure they will change some, because if anybody in their scenario is going to be struggling for fitness or carrying a niggle, then I think it's fairly clear where they might have played through it in the past that they probably won't on this occasion. There's no need to take the risk when it's going to be, I don't know, potentially only a month out from the following season, for example. What you will have by the time they've won the league is hopefully a little bit of benefit of having seen them play, how they've adjusted to the conditions, the circumstance. The Everton game is going to be particularly interesting, I think, from that first weekend to see how it's played. Will it be played like a derby, considering the conditions?
Yeah, I mean, a derby behind closed doors will be really weird.
Well, not just behind closed doors, but we think not in Liverpool as well, right? So,
oh yeah, true.
So you know, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird for the players. How's it going to be played? That's going to be really interesting. Everton are obviously going to be so up for it, but I'm sure Liverpool will be as well, right? So that's a fascinating game from the first weekend back. I don't think we can say the benefit on that is once they've won the title, which look, they already have won the title, is you'll hopefully see how they've adjusted to conditions. I suspect, and it's just a personal opinion, that they might struggle a little bit. I just think, like, mentally, it will be so challenging for them. And when I say struggle, we're talking about a side here that's won every game bar 2. I'm not talking about them losing regularly. I'm just saying I don't think they're going to maintain the sort of run that we've seen so far. And I don't think, I don't think it's a given that they'll actually pass 100 points now.
I'm not. I think they'll be okay. I think I saw Klopp's interview on Sky Sports, and he seemed very focused. He seemed very organised. He was ready. And not only that, I felt he was enjoying what was happening and getting the players back in and stuff. I think as a manager, he's obviously top of the game. So I think Liverpool will be okay. In terms of owning their assets, I mean, Trent and Robbo is pretty much owned them the entire season. I don't think I'm going to own Mo Salah for much longer, and mainly because of the money. It's like 13 million or whatever is sitting there. There are other players that I've got my eye on that are cheaper, that would then allow me to spread my funds a little bit. For example, Bruno Fernandes. I'm all over that at 8.7, is he? 8.7 million at the moment. Suddenly, if I sell Salah for him, I've got 5 million to play with up front. I could then go to an Aubameyang from a Vardy or Ings or something along those lines. I want to get more players that have a little bit more to play for. I mean, Harry Kane's going to be fit again, right? So would I rather have Harry Kane or Mo Salah? Based on if you win your first game or two, I'd rather have Harry Kane because you're going to be gunning for getting into the top four. So I don't think I'll have triple Liverpool for the rest of the season. Defensive ones, because of the price, you can stomach it, but I don't think a Salah or a Mane will stay with me for the rest of the season.
During the break, this last 2-3 months, while the transfers are open, one of the transfers I do know that I did make is I did sell Andrew Robertson. I still have Trent and Sadio Mane, and I would probably intend with just going with those two. The thinking on Robertson is he has been carrying injuries on occasion this season, and I think he's one where he'll probably be managed a little more carefully and a little bit like exactly what you said there, Serge, in terms of spreading the funds and going into a little bit of an unknown as well. I think Trent and Mane/Salah is the right way to go. No matter what the circumstance, I wouldn't sell Trent.
Nah, he's
just still absolutely ridiculous value. Trent would be ridiculous value if you said no, he's only going to play after games. I'd take that. Say yeah, well he'll play when he'll play, and he won't when he won't.
Yeah. He's that rare breed of defender that is just as likely to keep a clean sheet as pick up an attacking return. So yeah, I'm all over that. No problem at all.
His price is a joke. I've already said, if he's 8 million next year, his first name on the team sheet, it won't be a doubt about it. So still unbelievable value, Trent.
Let's jump on the Ryanair from Stansted to Germany, James. Anywhere in Germany you want to go. We've got a few Germany questions.
Going cheap, are we?
Yeah.
We're not going EasyJet or something to Munich. Or... Some of
these I'm going to be very unhelpful, but let's go through them anyway. People have asked, we will answer. FPL DC, Sancho or Havertz for Man United if you need to choose one. I don't know anything about Havertz. I haven't really seen him play it much. So
brilliant player.
I mean, Sancho banged in a hat-trick at the weekend though. So
yeah. First English player to score in one of the overseas top 5 leagues. Sorry, score a hat-trick in one of the overseas top 5 leagues since 1989. That's a brilliant achievement. He clearly wants to leave.
19 years old. He's a kid. He's 19 years old, James.
The point is, Havertz is only, I'm not sure, but I think he's only about 21. Very talented player. Can play central, can play wide. He's come through at Leverkusen, basically. He's already got about 7 caps for Germany. Extremely talented player. I think his name's coming up because he's come back into this Bundesliga period and performed very, very well for Leverkusen. So he's clearly on people's radar. People might not have known him previously. Both very good players. The Sancho is such a long-term prospect. The fact he's English as well, you would go with that, but it would cost a lot more, by the way, as well. There's no reason why United wouldn't go and get both if they feel they can afford it. They're one of the unlikely clubs that's likely to be able to go and do so should they want to.
Jimmy Mac and Cheese, our Burnley fan, says you could pick Haaland, Lewandowski, Sancho, Werner, or Havertz. Who would you pick? Now it's gone from 2 to 5.
Well, what's it for? Because if you're asking me, I can propel any one of those into Tottenham Hotspur Football Club tomorrow. I'll take Haaland.
Yeah,
thank
me
you very
too.
much.
I was going to say Haaland first and foremost. Just the beast of a
him and Harry, and then nobody be complaining. Oh, Harry Kane's dropping too deep. No, you'd be going, yeah, Kane plays at 10. So yeah, you'd go with that.
Whack this guy through, yeah.
The one thing I must say, I mean, if it's a Bundesliga question, I'm not best placed to answer it because I've not been playing. But Lewandowski, when he played at White Lane in October, he's even better than I thought he was. What a player, my God. But age profile-wise, I would go for Haaland.
Yeah, I would have said Haaland as well. I mean, Werner's great, Havertz. I mean, they're all good players. I suppose it goes to show the depth that there is in the Bundesliga now in terms of quality of players. And it's not the richest by far league in Europe. I mean, it's behind the Premier League and the Spanish League and what have you. So it wouldn't surprise me if Real Madrid, Barcelona and a lot of the Premier League clubs go shopping in the Bundesliga when the transfer window opens. But some of these players are going to cost a lot of money. Do you think the majority would be able to translate to the Premier League well?
From the Bundesliga? Yeah, one of the easiest to transition from, I would say, from overseas leagues
Yeah.
is from Bundesliga to Premier League. He says it's a very strange thing that we haven't had that many Germans in our league. There have obviously been some, Klinsmann, Ozil, Hamann,
Ballack.
But when you compare to, say, French and Dutch, for example, and I don't
And
know if, again,
Spanish. I mean, Spanish we're
that's
littered with.
relative to quality of league, but then we've had exactly so many Spanish, so many Italians. For whatever reason, there haven't been a huge number of successful Germans. I don't think there's been a lot of failures either, by the way, but there hasn't been as many as there have been from other countries. I think one of the reasons is obviously the Bundesliga is an enjoyable and very competitive league. It's also one of the reasons why I think it's one of the easiest to transition from Bundesliga to Premier League. I mean, there's some players who come and obviously taken a while. People might forget where Sonny came from. Sonny came from Bayer Leverkusen and very nearly went straight back within a year, and obviously now is a top player. So I think the transition from Bundesliga to Premier League is quite natural.
Let's look at a few more questions that are non-German football related. We've got our friend Benny Blanco. How did you sync your Patreon setup and the restart of football so seamlessly? Are you and Ben Crellin now in cahoots and working for the Premier League? I'll tell you what, we wouldn't be recording over Zoom. If I was working for the Premier League, actually, it's a Sky Sports thing. Why? I think Sky Sports, on all their YouTube channels, all of these Jamie Redknapps and everyone's sponsored by AirPods now, because all I see is them with their little white headphones in all the time.
Yeah, Planet FPL is not quite made AirPods
No,
yet.
I've got
for the benefit of the
my
YouTube
son's
guys.
nicked my other headphones, but yeah.
How did we sync it? We didn't. We synced it with Planet FPL 24 to go with the charity fundraiser. Is what we synced it with.
There was always a chance football would be resuming mid to late June anyway.
Well, in terms of the Patreon, Suj and I launched it and very much knowing that there might not be any football for months, right? So
I was thinking
that certainly wasn't part of the plan, really.
But while we talk about that, we'll talk about Patreon at the end. So if you are interested in that, listen up. But it started gathering some momentum in terms of the activity of what we're doing with our community of patrons. So yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. At just another Gene GW, how do you think this break would have affected the teams in the relegation battle? And let me start by saying I am genuinely shitting myself that we're going to go this season. No word of a lie. I also don't care. Like, if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to cry over it. But yeah, I don't trust the team to come back with their heads in the right game space. So,
can I ask?
Because we haven't historically been up for games when we should have been up for games. There's always an attitude problem. There's always been
do you think you'll stay up?
Problem. Yeah, I do. But it would be one of those, like, the number of times that we have stayed up, not through merit, but because there's been 3 teams that have just been even more garbage than we were, I could count. So I just think we will. I think Villa, unfortunately, are going to struggle. Norwich are dead and buried. And then one of Bournemouth or Brighton are going to go. And ourselves and Watford will scrap through it. But I'm not. It could just as easily, if we lost 7 out of our last 8 games or something stupid like that, 9 games, it wouldn't surprise me because we're just like that. But let's see. It's all going to be televised, right? So we're all going to be able to see so much of it.
We'll all be watching the downfall live.
No, it won't be like looking at results on paper and thinking, well, no. If we go down and we put in 110% in every game, I'll accept it. But if we roll over and get our bellies tickled, I'm not accepting it. So in terms of how will it affect teams, I've just told you, I think that Norwich, unfortunately, are too far gone. Villa, I think, will struggle. And I think one of Brighton or Bournemouth will go. And Watford, I think, will just scrap through. The likes of Troy Deeney will just shout at them. I don't know if is he going to play? Has he confirmed what he's going to do?
It looks like he is, yeah. He's had reassurances that have made him feel better now. And it's fine. I've been saying on my streams, if you don't want to play, don't play. It looks like N'Golo Kante is probably not going to play for Chelsea. But I think Deeney... I'm sure that Deeney feels a little bit of responsibility towards Watford as well. And that's probably part of his it's going to be really
missed a lot
tough
of
for
the
him. His
season with
child,
injury.
his child was born with breathing difficulties, so he wanted 100% assurance that he's going to go back and be safe. And obviously, a few Watford players have failed testing. Adrian Mariappa have failed a test, didn't he? So I think the testing recently was there no negative tests, or sorry, no positive tests over the weekend.
Yeah, no positive tests.
Yeah, so I mean that's really positive, isn't it? To flip positive and negative on its head. I think he must have had the reassurance that makes him feel like he's going to go back. In terms of how will it affect the clubs, I don't think we can really say. I would think, I was talking to Brad Lewington, who's a Brighton fan, and he was saying that he thinks the crowd doesn't always benefit Brighton because they're completely adapted from this very defensive side to being a side that wants to play out from the back, and they're a little bit nervous when they're trying to keep the ball and stuff like that. Whereas without the crowd, actually, they might be a team that can play without pressure and play with more freedom. And, I like the way they've played this season, but the results for the last, they haven't won a football match this calendar year, right, have been bad.
Yeah.
But whether that will translate into it will benefit them or not, again, it's a guess. I have no idea. Bournemouth are always capable of going 3-4 games in a row and putting good results together. I don't know. Something in me says this time it's going to be too much for them. I think the current bottom three will go. I think Villa and Norwich, unless they've managed to change something, they're not going to stop conceding goals, which then is just too much of a challenge for them at the other end. I think Watford have the momentum. I think inside, actually, Suj, you have enough quality going forward that you'll win games. So I think the current bottom three will go, but I wouldn't even be that surprised. I tell you what I would say about the bottom six. There will be good FPL assets from all of them. I'd be certain of that from all six of those clubs, there's something worth looking at.
Let's go back to Jimmy Mac and Cheese at Claret FPL. How many Manchester United strikers or mids are you looking at? Or are you not yet?
Well, I know if I was stuck with the squad that I'm landing back onto, I can tell you that Bruno Fernandes and Anthony Martial were both in it. But no idea.
You bought them both, did you?
Yeah, no idea what I do or don't want to do with it.
Bruno Fernandes, I want to get into my squad as quickly as I possibly can, which will be dictated by wild cards and all of that kind of stuff. And then I'll throw in Marcus Rashford because I think he's still great value as well. Those are the two that I want. And once I get them, I'll probably hold them until the end of the season. So the answer to your question is 2, Fernandes and Rashford. I'm not against Martial, by the way. I think points per million and his returns are actually pretty decent.
OOP.
Yeah, he just can be a little bit hit and miss sometimes, and he'll frustrate you as an owner. That's anything. But the other two,
yeah. Do you know what? It was one playing the value a little bit quite early on, I think. So he's sitting there at the moment. I just fixed up bits and pieces quite early on when I was doing it. The last couple of weeks, I didn't make any transfers with it. I was like, I don't know what else to do with this now, so I'm just going to leave it. The unknown with United is obviously Pogba. What's the impact in terms of his position? Does it have positive/negative effects on, I think, particularly Bruno? Is a little bit of an unknown. I could only think it would be positive, you would think. But then Pogba will share some of that creative burden which Bruno Fernandes has taken on, right? So I think it's one... Look, it's Tottenham first game, and as shit as we've been, the chances are, if you haven't got unlimited transfers, you're probably not going to get Bruno Fernandes in for that game week because you're going to be targeting the 4 clubs who've got doubles is probably going to be your priority. So I think you can have a look at that first game and then make a decision from there. Even the one afterwards, they'll play Sheffield United, which could even be on the neutral venue because we know the police have put in, I don't even know why, but the police have earmarked that fixture as a concern. Perhaps because it's scheduled to be the first Manchester United game in Manchester. Might be the reason why. But so I think you can wait on it a little bit and then see how it looks with Pogba. But yeah, if we have unlimited transfers, it's going to be mass owned. Mass owned.
We've got 3 questions here, James, which I don't know, we'll try and answer. But I suppose the 3 combined show the difficulty in predicting what's going on. So you've got clean sheet wipeout, do you think players will lack motivation after the 3-month break, particularly those that have nothing to play for, such as 10th to 14th and are too far behind Europe? Then you have Chris FPL Addict saying which players will be least or most susceptible to reduced minutes because of rotation and substitutions. And then you've got FPL Chancellor, our friend Dan, who says, are there any players that might struggle without the fans? So you've got that issue of no fans, plus nothing to play for, plus increased rotation as a complete cyclone of, oh dear, this is going to become a very tricky FPL finish.
I mean, it's all guesswork, and anybody that says this is going to happen or that's going to happen, nobody's seen this, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen by Liverpool are going to win the Premier League in terms of how players react. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was talking about this on one of my streams a few weeks ago. Adama Traore.
Mm-hmm.
He strikes me as a player who sometimes he gets the ball and it's not his first fault to just run at people. He's not, he's learnt to run in behind from, say, looking from, he knows when Moutinho or Neves are on the ball, he can particularly make that kind of run. But when the ball's played to him in sort of a wide touchline position, he doesn't sort of first touch, push it past people. It's often, all right, I'll control the thing. I'll think about what I'm doing first. And he strikes me as the sort of player who might play the easy pass a little bit more often back into his mates, who he might still believe in his head are better footballers than him. And who might argue, when you're looking inside for Moutinho, Neves, it is quite easy to think, I'll give them the ball and then move back off. I think he's one of them players, and the reason I highlight him is I think he's one of them where he gets the ball and sometimes he needs to hear and feel that roar of the crowd.
Yeah.
Before we've, right, they want me to run with it. And it could be that he's got, certainly when he's on Nuno's side, Nuno might be in his ear going, run at him. But I don't know, he's the sort of player who I just feel like he might struggle under these conditions because I feel like he needs that. He knows the crowd are behind him, willing him on. And then in turn, the fullbacks are shitting themselves double as well because the ball's landed at his feet and then they can hear 20,000 people on the back of their neck as well, right? There's certain players who you feel like will just be comfortable no matter what. So I think people like David Silva, if he's going to play for City. Someone said to me the other week that they think like it might really benefit people like Ozil, for example, in terms of stylistically, perhaps a slightly slower pace, not people on his back in terms of you're not putting in the work effort or anything.
Yeah, so, true.
But it's all guessing, isn't it? I don't know. Someone like Ndombele, right? If he comes back fit, he could go mental. He's so talented. But anybody would be a pure guess, I would think those with the strongest of mind will perform well. So those who are going to be really good trainers and mentally. So I'm thinking like your people like Jordan Henderson, Harry Kane, etc. They're going to come back and play every game the same, I believe, that as they normally would. But they might not. I don't know. Nobody knows how mentally this is going to affect players, right? So it's all about who's going to work out in the circumstances. But the players themselves, it's all right saying, you play 11-a-side games in training or you might play behind closed doors friendly pre-season. When that first game comes round, the players are going to be thinking, fuck me, this is weird. There's no prepping for it. It's like penalty shootouts. You can
practice, but you don't know until you're in the moment.
99 out of 100 in practice, but then put it in front of the pressure of it being a World Cup quarter-final or whatever, and different things happen to different players, right? And there's just no way of knowing how mentally people are going to react to this, I think. And every individual is going to be different.
And then we've got one final FPL question, James, before we have a quick Champman chat. Brad J at FPL_mindset. Personal overall rank goals for the season.
For FPL?
Now that we're restarting, where do you want to finish?
Who gives a shit? My target is absolutely catch Serge. Has to be. That's the only target I've got.
I've got two targets. One is 274,249th because that will give me my highest ever rank in FPL.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm currently 464,495. So that's one. And then realistically, I think something that starts with a 1 to 199,909 inside the top 200K. I think will be interesting. We will learn very quickly within 3 or 4 game weeks. I don't know of the 500,000, less than 500,000, but players ahead of me, how many are even going to bother coming back.
Yeah, key
It
point.
wouldn't surprise me if a good 150,000 who don't play will overtake them pretty quickly.
I don't think
So
their engagement will be the same.
Unrealistic. No, I don't think top 100K is unrealistic now. But yeah, we'll see. And I think we'll be planning out our strategies around fixtures and players and stuff much more than others will. So I would say, as long as I finish top 275K, that's my highest ever finish. And top 100K, I think, is still on the cards. So that's what I'm going to be hoping for.
In terms of an overall, I would be happy if I could get back into the top 200K. And I think because of what you said, that's possibly now a possibility again now. That said, there could be people ahead of us who've got dead teams, right, and might actually get re-engaged and make things worse. So
that's true.
But I think, there's a lot of people who are going to have switched off and fantasy football, because for a lot of people as well, it's part of the banter in terms of work and the socializing, and there's not so much of that element to it as well. So a lot of players won't come back. There will be a lot of dead teams floating about, I should imagine. So, but yeah, I've got to catch you is the plan. Yes, if I can get into that 200, I'm about 850K. Thank you, Sadio Mane. Yeah, we'll have a go, but I'm not. It doesn't matter, right? I've already this virus has already given me my excuse for the season.
The asterisk is already there.
Yeah. If it's shit, it's asterisk. If it's in top 200K, I go, yeah, all right.
There we go. And I'll just wrap up the FPL chat for our listeners by just saying there's still a few announcements that we're waiting for that will really affect what happens going forward. One is the fixtures. One is an announcement on what's happening with the unlimited transfers and so on, and how and when the game's going to reopen. When we have that information, rest assured, we'll be jumping on Zoom again and recording to give you a bit more of a detailed breakdown on how we're going to start and approach the rest of the season. So up until now, I wouldn't worry about it because A, you can't make any transfers in the game, and B, we don't have all of the information. Just enjoy the fact that it's coming. It's the anticipation phase.
Yeah, I agree. I think 98% we can be sure what's happening with the fixtures, but it isn't confirmed. So no. I wouldn't. No, for Sky players. I mean, for Sky players, it's obviously particularly important knowing what game's going to be what day and stuff. But one of the things just on that for Sky players who are thinking, I need the whole schedule. I don't think it's beyond possibility that we end up with something that's a little bit like what's common in Spain, where games are moved at a week or two's notice. In theory, what you'd be having now is they'd be announcing all the TV games up until, it's June now, but with the amount of games left, certainly until the final 2 game weeks, right? To prepare fans in terms of what days, etc. Now, you don't have to prepare for the fans here. The only people that need to know are the club, the players and the officials, right? In terms of what's happening. For television companies, they'll just go wherever. It's not a problem. They'll know that someone's going to Manchester on X weekend for X game. It's just a case of what time, right? So I don't think it's beyond possibility we might get, this is what's happening on the first weekend and then the second. And then once that first weekend's gone, we'll find out what's happening in the third weekend. I don't think that's impossible. They don't have to worry about the fans, right? So it could be very short notice in terms of what games are put onto what time slot and stuff like that.
There we go.
Sky players have just gone, oh my God, are you kidding, James?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. We'll talk about Sky when we get onto the Sky Fantasy Football podcast as well. So if you do want to listen and you're a Sky player, then make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting your audio.
10th of June, we'll be back with Sky.
Correct. Now, let's talk a little bit about Champman before we wrap up. James, how was your weekend?
All right. I'm 40-something I got. I actually hit grey. I didn't move. I've got the same rank, I believe. Having gone up 4 places, having got 108 points the week before, I went up from 137 to 133rd. It might be I hadn't looked at an updated league table, but I think I'm still 133rd from what I saw. All right, it's been a week of very different circumstances, from very high scoring midweek of what was game week 17 to what was a very low scoring game week 18, really, and obviously the Manchester United chaos, which I suspected although didn't think it would be quite to that dramatic effect. I said during the stream in the first half on Saturday that I thought every single player bar Barthez was susceptible to rotation. I didn't actually think that it would be every single player basically that got rotated, but I was aware and prepared for it. It's part why I didn't vice captain Beckham, for example. I went with Kevin Phillips because I just knew that going with two United players together was just going to be too big a risk. But I've heard people say differently, thinking, well, I thought Van Nistelrooy might get rotated. So in which case, I definitely wanted a Beckham or Veron as my vice. And I can't actually really argue with that theory because ordinarily that is where you'd want to be.
I ended up on 49, James. I had a reasonable week. I had a very strong midfield showing. Gerrard, Selakovic, Johnson, Wilcox and Scowcroft. So that was very good for me. But I had Melberg bloody got sent off, didn't he? So that didn't help. And obviously Van Nistelrooy was my captain, and my vice captain was Boksic. But so 49, I don't know where my rank is, to be honest, because I don't think the table was updated properly. But that was fine. I think I may go. I've got 2 free transfers going into this week, but I may actually free hit this week. If you look at the fixtures that my squad has,
you've used that first wild card, haven't you?
Yeah. I've got an absolute sea of red in my fixtures here. So we'll see. We'll see.
Also, what I spoke about at half time at the weekend was saying, there's lots of people pre the game. I've got 11 players playing at home. I was like, yeah, wait till you see how many players you got playing at home next week. Just a reminder for those that are playing Champman FPL, if you haven't used your first wild card, you have to use it this game week or you lose it. And obviously for the new players who might be joining or want to join in, the guys are moving from their spreadsheets to a website, www.fantasychampman.com, where you can now register a team in preparation for game week 20 and play along for the second half of the season. We are on Patreon doing something mini league with prize as well. Yay!
Nice.
Rejoice Patrons is coming, and it's going to be open for people at all levels. So if you want to start bunging us £3 a month and join into our mini league, feel free. I think for me this week, Suj, I know the 2 players I'm getting, and it was the 2 players I thought I'd be getting pre the game week, having listened to Andy Martin FPL Tactician and Dave Simple Guy FPL stream last night. I'll be getting McPhail. I'll be getting Viduka, and I'll be captaining Viduka. Yeah, I'm steaming straight into Leeds. I think a lot of people will wait an extra week till they've got a home fixture. Southampton away doesn't bother me. That was my plan.
I'm with you on that as well. I was looking at Kuehl and Viduka, but I think McPhail, I may need to do McPhail just because of the budget. I don't think I'm going to have the money to get to Harry Kuehl. So, yeah, I might be looking at similar to you, to be honest with you, James. But then I've got the issue with Steven Gerrard's injured now, but his injury doesn't seem too bad.
I really enjoyed owning Harry Kuehl earlier in the season. Even though his returns weren't what they should be, it felt like he was on the edge of it all the time. And one week he was going to go mental, and it didn't quite happen. I think it will soon. But I think McPhail, what, 3.5 million cheaper? And with Lee
I owned him season, he was so solid.
And with Lee Bowyer out for about at least another 6-7 game weeks, I just think, no brainer. He's probably going to play the majority of the games at 5 million. He performs very well when he does. You know, he's posted back-to-back 10 out of 10 ratings this season when Leeds have had a couple of home games. So I think he's a great asset, and yes, it allows a better spread of funds.
The money.
Leeds really need to be targeted because they have a great fixture. We're coming into game week 19. In game week 22, they are part of only 8 teams that will play, and they play at home to the worst team in the game, West Ham United. And in game week 23, they have a scheduled double. In game week 24, they definitely have a double. So you've got to go into treble of them. It's just a case, I think you're narrowing it down to going Viduka, McPhail, Kuehl. Most are going to go Ian Hart. I think you can look at Gary Kelly and Radaby as well. You could look at Nigel Martin, perhaps. Robbie Keane's a dodgy one because he's one yellow card away from a suspension. And if that comes this week, he'd missed the blank game week. If it comes the week after, I think he misses the first part of double game week 23. So it's dodgy to be getting him now, but he's one you could potentially come back for, Robbie Keane.
There we go. Shall we tell everybody what we've got left coming up this week? Do you want to do that? And then I'll give them a roundup of where they can find us and Patreon and all of that kind of other stuff.
Yeah, sure. So tomorrow, People's Poll, the vote is live now. As of recording, it stays live to around about 7:30 UK time on Monday. The championship, as we know, restarts on June the 20th. That's the plan. Although it sounds like some of the clubs weren't told, which is quite amusing, as many of them haven't even gone back to contact training yet. The bottom three at the moment are Barnsley, Charlton and Luton. And there were some fascinating stories behind all three of them. Barnsley are potentially were looking at considering suing the EFL should the season be voided and then go down. There's a possibility they could finish in the bottom three and still stay up because of financial irregularities at other clubs. And Barnsley have been very vocal about it. Charlton, we put in the poll before because their takeover situation is an absolute nightmare. And I'm worried for them, really worried for them in terms of their financial predicament. And Luton Town are almost certain to get relegated, but have had a great run the last few years, coming up from the National League all the way through back into the Championship. If you'd have offered them being in League One 6-7 years ago, they absolutely would have taken it. They're about to move into a new stadium. And what's very interesting in terms of what's happened at Luton is during this lockdown and COVID period, they've changed managers. So sacked their previous manager and they've appointed Nathan Jones back in charge, who jumped ship and had an abysmal period at Stoke City. So I think Luton Town's quite an interesting one as well. That'll probably be the most football related of the three if you want to vote for that one.
Wednesday, we have quiz.
Wednesday, I'll do a quiz. I'm going to do Premier League debuts is going to be the theme of the quiz. Now, that can be anything. It could be a managerial debut. It could be a club's first game in the Premier League. It could be a certain player's debut in the league. But the theme is going to be Premier League debuts. And then on Thursday, Clash of the Correspondents returns. We know what four teams you're going to be focusing on when we come straight back. So we got those four guys on first. So Thursday, we'll have Adam Hopcroft and Tomo FPL Blade. We'll be talking about Aston Villa and Sheffield United assets. And the following Thursday, before the restart, we'll have FPL Fringle and 3-5 Who talking about Man City and Arsenal. Friday, I'll be streaming again. Wednesday night, Champman FPL stream. No Champman FPL stream on Saturday. There will be a week break from Wednesday night to the following Wednesday. And that's to give people extended time to move from current players, move from the spreadsheets to the website, and also give new players plenty of time to be able to sign up and register your teams for second half of the season. I will be on with Andy, Dave, James Alapran and Luke from Scout on the Championship Manager stream on Sunday night.
Lovely, jubbly. So just a couple of final bits and pieces from me. If you hadn't already seen on Twitter, James and I are finalists in the Football Content Awards this year for the Best Fantasy Football Podcast. Some big names in there, but if you do enjoy the content we produce and you'd like us to pick up an award, then please do head over to the Football Content Awards website and vote there. You can also vote on Twitter as well. And I think you can vote on Facebook, but mainly on Twitter. So do make sure you do head over there and vote for us. We'd appreciate all of your support with that.
I love the support we get from people. Let me say something I feel personally. I'm going to say it once and once only. Right? If we don't win this fucking award this year, right, it's a joke. The only reason we ain't going to win it, the only reason we won't win it is because someone else has got more followers than us. Right? If we don't deserve it, by the end of this year, we're going to have done more podcasts than there are days of the year.
Correct. That's true. I'm not going to argue with it. So do that. If you are not subscribed to the show already, wherever you're getting your audio, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, just make sure you hit subscribe. And if you are a YouTube watcher, then hit subscribe and ring the bell. On YouTube, you'll be notified whenever we release content and go live. We also have a Patreon where there's lots of other different perks. We produce additional content, which will be starting up as soon as the football starts up for Patreon members. We've got mini leagues, we've got prizes, we've got exclusive content there as well. So head over to patreon.com/FPL. If you are a fan of the show and you do want to contribute in any way, shape or form and join the community, including a very active Slack community, then that's a place that you can find all of that stuff. But you've been listening for long enough to all of our nonsense. Just be safe. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everybody. Cue music, man. Sharp.